Hey you guys, welcome to Bones Collector, and today I'm going to talk to you about a game that I found at the flea market that recently at Dice Tower Con, and it's called Solenia. And Solenia, the designer Sébastien Dujardin, and the art is by Vincent Dutrait, which I love Vincent's artwork. And Sébastien Dujardin, he was the co-designer on one of my favorite all-time games, a game that I think is in the Hall of Fame, and that's Troyes. So a very, very reputable board game designer, and usually great board game designers will create another great board game. I mean, that's just the way it works. But this game is called Solenia, and it takes place in some remote planet where for whatever reason, I don't know if it's the rotation has stopped spinning or what, but the half of the planet, the northern hemisphere, stays daytime all the time, and the southern hemisphere, it stays night all the time. So that presents them with a lot of problems, and so they have to transport goods to each hemisphere. In the daytime they can grow trees and make wood and lumber, and they have to transport that to the nighttime side of the planet, and the nighttime side of the planet has water, and they transport that to the daytime. So you're transporting goods, and the way the game works is you're going to have a deck of 16 cards, and they all have holes in them. And you're going to draw these cards to a hand of 3, and then you're going to play them on this board, and you'll play them on top of a square that has a resource, perhaps, and you're going to get that resource. If I played this number 2 card on a stone square, I'm going to get 2 stone, and it's going to go on my player board. And you're out. What you want to do is start to complete these contracts, which are these tiles here, and once you complete these contracts, you move them down onto your player board, and there's also a benefit you receive for completing those contracts. So that's something that you want to do. Once this deck again is depleted, the 16 cards, the game is over. So you don't know how those cards are going to come out, so you got to do some careful planning. And also, as the coolest thing about this game, of course, is this modular board. And whenever a contract is completed, and you have to have one of the 0 cards. Your cards are 0, 1, and 2. And when you play a 0 card, at the top it has an icon of an airship on it. And that's the airship on the board. And when you put this on a star to complete a contract, that airship is going to move 1 space forward, and the bottom of the board is going to drop off. And any cards that are on this section of the board, like this card here, this player would receive 1 wood because it has an icon at the bottom of the card. So you receive resources that way also, and that makes you plan and ahead for your next turn, because maybe you're looking at your cards and you're like, I need to get a certain resource, and to complete this next contract, I'm trying to search for someplace on the board where I can complete or get that resource. Well, wait a minute, at the bottom of the board it's going to fall off because a contract was just completed, so I get a wood. I don't have to put my card up here to get a wood. I'm going to get one when this part of the board falls off. And when that happens, this board flips over to the daytime side. It goes to the top of the modular board, and then you push it down towards you. That way it just keeps rotating through. So that's a really sweet mechanic. Okay, on your player board there's 2 different sides. I'm going to show you. When you are learning the game, this is the side. It's called Summer, and it has quite a few storage spaces on it, and it has some benefits when you place your contracts up here that you're going to receive. But it's a little easier because you've got so many spaces to store resources. It's just a lot easier. And then when you flip it over to the winter side, you can play this side. Now, we played this summer side first to get a feel for the game. It's a lot easier that way, and I would advise everybody to do that. When you're first learning the game, play the easy side of the player board. Then you flip it over, and when you flip it over, you have a bunch of bonus tiles that you can put on the front of your ship here, and a bonus tile you can put on the rear of the ship. And you can dole those out and grab 2, look at them, pick one, the other player gets the other one, and then the same for the front of the ship. And that makes it a lot meatier, let me tell you, on how the game works. So that's something that you want to consider when you're playing this game. But it's much more fun on the winter side because it's a deeper game, more strategy, and that always lends itself to a better gameplay. But yeah, so that's one of the things I really, really like. A couple of nitpicky things I have about the game. The card stock could have been thicker. I mean, your because the hole is in the card, so you see through it, I don't know, the card just feels kind of flimsy. I wish the cardstock had been better. So your deck of cards are 0s, 1s, and 2s. Generally, you're going to want to play your 0s on contracts. Yes, because you won't get any resources, and that moves the ship. And that's the only cards that move the ship. The other cards you can play and complete a contract by laying these on a star. You would get 2 points for laying that on a star, but every time you lay one of these cards on one of the star spaces, you have to complete a contract. So, you know, that's just the way this game works. And let's see, that is really a lot of fun and a lot of strategy involved in planning how you're going to place those cards. Because again, the most difficult thing to remember is that in order to complete a daytime contract, you must put your card on a star that's in the daytime part of the board. You cannot, if you look at these nighttime contracts and you say, oh man, I want to complete that. Well, if that ship is on the board in that position, you would not be able to complete a nighttime contract right now the way this sits. However, this is my player card, if I had a card here, then I can also, because usually you have to place a card adjacent to the ship. So you have 6 spaces where those cards go, where you can play. But if you already have a card there, then you can play one adjacent to your own card and go ahead and complete a nighttime contract. That's the only way I could get that. So there's some trickiness to it. And you have to, it's easy to forget that rule, that you have to place your card on a day or nighttime space in order to complete a day or nighttime contract. So that's probably the only thing that really will slip your mind. And then you get things on your player board like wood for the rest of the game or wheat for the rest of the game, you know, one resource. So you have to kind of remember that you've done that. In this case, on Lori's player board, she'd have 2 wheat, even though she's just showing 1 real resource. I'm sorry, did I do that on camera? And then you get some other bonuses. And in order to unlock these, of course, you have to have your completed contracts in those spaces. And you don't have to do them consecutively. They don't have to be side by side. But you have to do a level 1 before you can move on to a level 2. You have to do a level 2 before you can move on to a level 3. So you have to choose which benefit you think will add to your or benefit your strategy the best, and make those choices as the game progresses. And I guess that's about it. Again, it's a wonderfully designed game, and it's kind of unique because this player board flips constantly. And so those are things you have to plan for. It always changes your strategy when the board changes. So that's kind of cool. Samara is another game that comes to mind, that little Samara game from Tasty Minstrel. And it has like a calendar of months, and that perpetually moves, and it changes the way you strategize the game. So that's the only other game I can think of that does that. And there's probably more. I mean, there's lots of, you know, I don't know, 88,000 board games out there, and maybe there's some that use this mechanic, but I haven't played any in a long time other than Samara that work like this. So this is really a cool game. It's an excellent design, and I'm going to hang on to it for a while because I really like that mechanism of the board flipping. I like the mechanism of laying down the card with a hole in it so that you can see what resource you're getting or what you're doing. There's a lot to think about in this game, and then when this board drops off the bottom, you get some benefits if you have cards on that section of the board. So you have to plan, you know, you have to plan for those things and tell yourself, okay, I'm getting that stuff. I don't want to waste movement with my cards when I am getting it down here when this board flips off, and I don't want to waste getting something and repeating when I don't need to do that. So you really have to think about those things when you're playing this game. That's about it. I mean, again, it's a great strategy game, and there isn't much randomness in this game. You have to do some strategic planning and some tough thinking, man, I'm telling you. Here's what I really like about the game. It's easy to play. The rules are easy to understand. That's the rule book. You know, it's a 2-page pamphlet, and so there's not a lot of rules, and that's pretty cool. That really lends itself to being a popular board game because it's not hard to learn, just hard to play. It's hard to strategize, and those games are few and far between. So Solenia hits the mark on that in that category where a game is simple to learn and hard to strategize. So Solenia is a good game that I'm going to keep for a long time. I like the way it played. On the easy side, it really didn't do as much for me, but when we flipped the boards over, used the extra bonus tiles, the game really opened up and got its legs, and really entertained us the entire time we were playing it. So I really like that. It's a great game. You can take it from me. It's a wonderful game. You know, if you want to pick that up. I mean, I found it on the flea market, but you know, it would be worth buying, whatever, if you can find it on sale or whatever. But it's a wonderful game. You'll enjoy it for years. And everybody, please like and subscribe. If you have any questions about this game or any other game, please comment on the section below the video. I'll get back to every comment or every question that you have. And please subscribe. I love every one of you. Have a great day and keep on gaming, because it is the best hobby on the planet Earth. Bye-bye.